can all agree that ramen's one of the greatest foods on the planet. So we're gonna take instant and pit that against the most expensive ever. Could be a waste of money. So today we are making two different kinds of ramen. We're gonna take an instant ramen, doll it up a little bit, you know, put some stuff in there, and then we're gonna make
the most expensive ramen that we possibly can.
As previously stated. Now, Josh, how do we make an expensive ramen? Well, for one, we're gonna take a lot of time to make that broth as good as possible. But then it comes down to the accoutrement. It comes down to each and every little thing. The aroma oil, the tare, the noodles, and of course the protein. But we're gonna take a fine dining approach. And I'm not just going to throw caviar on this. We're gonna do a bunch of other things to jack up that price, put it together, and see if we make the ultimate ramen that hopefully is better than the $4 one. So with all that being said, let's make this, shall we?
This is what a $4 ramen looks like, and this is what a $800 ramen looks like. Or well, we spent $800 on all the ingredients to just get to this one bowl, so we're gonna count that, okay? Real quick, let's start with Mr. Humble. Shin Instant Ramen is your go-to. Ideally Shin Black because it's just simply better. First off, boil some eggs by getting a medium-sized pot filled with water, bring it up to a gentle boil over medium-high heat. That's gentle, not a geyser. Gently lay in 1 egg per bowl of ramen that you'll be making. Fluctuate temp as needed so the eggs don't clang and bang around like all the stuff that you leave in your trunk. Boil exactly 6 minutes and 30 seconds, then immediately place in an ice water bath. Let it cool till just warm, and peel submerged in water, and those are your softies. When you're ready to use them, you just slice them in half. Now, optionally, you can add some mushroom. I just did about a ½ pound of button mushrooms quartered. Get a 10-inch skillet, hot over medium-high, add in just enough oil to coat the bottom, add in your shrooms, sear for 3 to 4 minutes, tossing occasionally, season to taste with salt, and that's it. Now cook your Shin ramen as per package instructions. Pop it into a bowl, add on some thinly sliced green onion, your mushrooms, either half or a whole soft-boiled egg, and some nori strips, which kept wilting, annoyingly. So I went with the chiffonade, which also wilted. It's fine. And that's your basic bowl. It's simple, but it does the trick. Now, the next one is a completely different world in every aspect and full of luxury. We're using a tonkotsu broth as our base, but that usually takes 14 to 18 hours of boiling, doesn't it? Well, guess what, pal? Thanks to my restaurant experiences, I can tell you a little secret. Most restaurants don't have the time, and they're not gonna make the time. Instead, they use a pressure cooker, believe it or not. They pressure cook the broth for a little bit, then pressure cook some fat in there, blend it, boil it again, and that's how they do it. Welcome to the future. Well, the future for you. The restaurant industry's been done that, all right? So here's how you do it. You'll need 2 pounds or 900 grams of pork neck bones and 2.5 pounds or a little over a kilo of sliced pork hocks. I'm really enunciating that because if you say it too fast, it sounds a little funny. Make sure that the pork hocks have the skin on, which really helps emulsify the stock. Now, purists out there will say, oh, you get to place this in a bowl and cover with cold water and leave it in the fridge overnight. But look, it's completely optional. Either way, place those in a pot, cover with fresh cold water and bring to a boil. Boil for 2 minutes, skimming any scum that rises to the top, and then immediately drain. Rinse with cold water, getting any impurities off. Then place your now clean, sparkly bones in a pressure cooker. Add just enough water to cover, plus another cup or so. Pop the lid on, set the pressure to high for 1.5 hours, and while that's going, let's make our chashu. Get a 4-pound or 2-kilo pork belly, roll it up tight like a porchetta, tie your rolled pork into 3 intervals to make it a beautifully spiraled roast. Heat up a 7-quart Dutch oven over medium-high, add just enough veg oil to coat the bottom, and once it's so hot, I wanna cry. Sear your pork on 2 sides gently to get some golden brown going on. Then leaving it fat side up, add in 1 cup or 250 milliliters of sake. The one I used here costs about $150 a bottle, which hurts my heart, but we're doing it for science. Followed by 1 cup or 250 milliliters of water, 3/4 of a cup or 175 milliliters of shoyu, this one being about $50 a bottle, 1 cup or 250 milliliters of mirin, 1/4 cup or 50 grams of granulated sugar, a 2-inch or 5-centimeter piece of peeled ginger sliced, 1 bunch of green onion cut into thirds, and 1 shallot quartered with the skin left on. Bring that up to a boil over medium-high, drop the temp to low, and simmer covered with a lid for 3 hours, turning occasionally until the deed is done and you get a tender little belly right there, brother. Now you can either use that right away, or if you're making it ahead, refrigerate and slice while cold to get beautifully clean slices. Now, unless you're unreasonably slow, you should still have some time left with your pressure cooker to make your most important elements: the tare, the aromatic oil, which neither should be skipped here, and of course, the toppings. We already showed you how to make your soft-boiled eggs, and the nori simply just needs to be cut super thin and chiffonade like so. For the tare, in a medium sauce pot, add a 1/4 cup or 60 milliliters of sake. Yes, that's the expensive one. Set over medium-high, and as soon as it boils, optionally, using a kitchen torch, carefully ignite the steam and let it flambe till the flame dies out. Then add a 1/4 cup or 60 milliliters of shiradashi, 1/2 cup or 120 milliliters of mirin, 1/2 cup or 120 milliliters of good aged soy sauce, this one being about 60 buckaroonies, and 1 cup or 7 grams of bonito flakes. You can also use niboshi if you're a purist, okay? I get it. Bring that up to heat, and as soon as it starts to get steamy hot, turn the heat off and steep for 5 minutes. Then just strain that through a mesh sieve, and that's your tare. Now, there is a lobster element to this as well, so you'll need 2 whole lobster. I did the deed with them. In the closet. I did it respectfully and humanely, as you should. It's a very important note, and I really hope that people stop ignoring it. Please dispatch your lobsters humanely. Research it, learn it. This isn't even a joke. That being said, do not throw away their heads and save them for later. I cooked their tails and claws for 4 minutes in gently boiling water. Now, I really only want the tails for this, but you can of course use the claws as well. Once it's cooked, pop it into an ice bath, then split the tails in half lengthwise, remove the vein, extract the meat, clean any yuckiness in there if needed. And next, let's talk aromatic oil. Absolutely essential to this bowl. You'll need 1 cup of lard, heat until completely melted, then add a mix of half a bunch of green onions cut into 2-inch segments and 8 cloves of lightly crushed garlic left whole. Lower the heat to medium-low and let that cook, swirling occasionally for 5 to 7 minutes or until the vegetables are golden brown and toasted. Strain through a fine mesh sieve and stir in half a teaspoon of toasted sesame oil. And if you really want to push the limit here,
You could totally smoke that oil.
and no, I don't mean with your USB port pen, okay? I'm talking about hickory smoke, brother. Here I have a little miniature smoker set up. Place some compressed wood in a little sort of bowl made of foil. Put that in the bottom of your smoking bowl or a perforated pan setup.
Blast your wood.
With a blowtorch till completely on fire, then gently blow on it to put out the fire and get that smoke rolling. Place a perforated pan or wire rack over that. Place a container of oil on top of that. Cover with foil or a lid and let that bad boy smoke for about 5 to 8 minutes or until smoky to your liking. Now back to our broth. After that 1.5 hours, release the pressure, being careful of any spritzing. It's kind of like a scalding hot sprinkler from hell. Now add half a pound or 225 grams of pork fat, close the lid, bring it back up to high pressure and cook for another 1.5 hours. Now one more time, release that pressure. There's that hellfire sprinkler system. Once the pressure is released, open it up, carefully scoop out the fat back using a spider and place it in a blender. Cover it with about a quart of broth. Blend on high until you get a completely smooth and creamy emulsified base. Strain your pork stock out of the pressure cooker and into a pot, then add your blended Snow White milk. Pop that bad boy on the stove over medium-high, optionally, and to be frank, this is a cardinal sin in my opinion, but we have to test it. So we're gonna add some of our lobster tail shells and the head of 2 lobsters from earlier. Be sure to clean the head before adding, by the way. Followed by a mix of 1 bunch of green onion cut into 2-inch segments and 5 cloves of garlic lightly crushed and a 1-inch knob of ginger sliced. Bring that up to a boil over medium-high and boil for 25 to 30 minutes or till reduced and slightly thickened. Now, if the appropriate amount of gelatin was extracted, then you should have a beautiful
Emulsification.
We're pretty much ready, but we need to add a little extra bit of spice to this bowl. I got us some slightly more expensive mushrooms that are not truffles, okay? Not trying to make a cop out here. We've got 1 pound of lion's mane mushrooms and half a pound of hanchimeji mushrooms. Cut those guys up into bite-sized pieces, toss together, then sear them in a pan similarly to the previous method, except this time once they're cooked, add in 2 tablespoons or 28 grams of unsalted butter and let that cook until the butter browns, tossing occasionally, and then they are done. Be sure to season these nicely with salt, by the way. Nobody likes an unseasoned mushroom. Well, it's assembly time. Torch your sliced chashu, as many slices as you want per bowl, till hot and lightly browned on both sides. Then per bowl, add about 2 to 3.5 tablespoons of tare, hit it with additional salt to taste. Ladle in about 2.5 cups of your tonkotsu broth. Add in 6 ounces of cooked straight ramen noodles, which have been cooked and drained according to package directions. A light drizzle of your aromatic oil, 1 to 2 teaspoons will do. Look, it's an aroma, okay? A gentle kick in the pants. Followed by your egg, mushroom, green onion, your chashu, half of a lobster tail, nori that's been chiffonade, a generous dollop of caviar, whichever one you like, assuming you have a favorite. You'll need at least 30 to 50 grams of this stuff. And that is your bowl. This recipe does make enough for 4, but we're only making 1 here, so bummer. Now, let's taste test and see if spending more than 200 times the price was worth it. So it comes down to this. This ended up being... Is it fair to pit an instant ramen against this? I'll judge graciously in that way. Broth, a little bit spicy. I'm not opposed to instant ramen, it's good. Don't act higher than thou and say that instant ramen isn't good. If you get the right kind, Shin Black, delicious. Everything else combined, this tastes exactly like I thought it would. Now, $800 for this. I know there's some sacrilege involved with this. Broth check. God damn. It's not even fair. This could be one of the best ramens we've made on the channel. Oh, the broth. It's not fair to compare the broth because the broth isn't the most expensive part. By the way, the lobster didn't add anything to it. Don't taste it, sorry. Let's talk about the expensive stuff. First off, caviar. It's nice, little salty, briny bits, I like it. Okay, I have my answer. Believe it or not, making a ramen more expensive does not make it better at all. This ramen is better than the instant one, undoubtedly. Each element, the lobster, etc. You can add all that stuff, but you honestly don't have to. This ramen is perfectly good on its own. And this is why you don't mess with a perfectly good food. But I definitely don't want this now that this is here. You don't need expensive ingredients to make something taste delicious. And this ramen right here was a waste of money. Thanks. You wanna know what else makes me pop my wallet open? B-roll.
right, guys, and that is it. So we have our expensive ramen, very expensive, and of course our instant ramen that's been dolled up just a hair. I'm reassessing my statement a little bit. I'm not saying the caviar in there, etc., doesn't make it better. It tastes a little bit more luxurious, a little bit more fancy, but for that price point, I have to be a little more scrutinizing and say, look, is the boost worth it?
No.
This is a dish where the foundation is completely predicated off of proper technique and knowing what the flavor should be and just putting in the time, the effort, and assembling it properly. That is what makes it good. It's also a smattering of so many different high flavor ingredients. Got all that umami.
And it'll have you saying mommy, I'll tell you what.
But with all that being said, if you enjoyed this video or you learned something, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you next time.